good evening and welcome to what is likely to be a very different and probably a rather downbeat Cat's Whiskers podcast this week. Obviously, things not going great for the Nottingham Panthers right at this moment, and as we record this, it's just 24 hours since a devastating Challenge Cup defeat to the Sheffield Steelers that sees Panthers relinquish their 5-year hold on the trophy. Joining me in what is somewhat of a post-mortem is Aaron Lord.
Good evening.
And also a welcome back to Andy Haywood.
Good evening.
So, gents, where do we start? I mean, it's been a pretty horrendous February so far. I mean, Andy, just very quickly, just sum up your thoughts at this very moment.
Well, lacklustre, really, is the best way to describe it. They've just not been able to grind out the results like they had been doing, and I think a lot of that is to do with the players that are on the ice, as opposed to various other factors that we've also had. I just think at the moment there's an awful lot of guys that haven't put their hand up when they needed to, and unfortunately the list is ever growing at the moment in this month.
Aaron, your thoughts?
It's very difficult to find the words, to be honest. Disappointing, hurtful. We've not performed at the level that we have been doing for several parts of the season, and it's hard to watch, and it's hard to see a team that at one stage was, very much a team, and now we just, we look like individuals trying to play ice hockey, and we've had a major collapse.
I mean, something that I know we've been looking at today, and we've been looking back at certain things. We've been seeing where the problems might have started, and I'll take you back to, I think it was the 1st of February, we played the Belfast Giants. We'd won 1-0. We were second in the league, 2 points behind Braehead, and everything was looking really nice and rosy. And then all of a sudden, since then we've won one game in 6. And, we can't really put our finger on what's gone wrong, but what I can't understand, and what really is getting to me at the minute, is how we can go from such a position where I honestly thought we were going to go on and win the league. Such was the momentum with us after those 2 games against Belfast, and since then we've looked a complete shadow of what we did. Is there any reasons that either of you guys can find as to why it's suddenly gone completely wrong? Aaron, I'll start with you.
I think at the moment we are mentally and emotionally drained. And I think that as players and coaches, I think we are just emotionally spent. Now, I can't work out, and it's hard to see where the team that was, so dominant over the Christmas period and so dominant, picked up the points, shall we say, against the Belfast Giants, that double header weekend. I don't see that team now. 24 hours on from watching the worst period of hockey that I have ever seen in my life, if I'm totally honest. I honestly don't know what has gone wrong, and I think, I'm not even sure people, whether the players and the coaches actually know, to be honest.
Andy?
Well, I as much as I don't think injuries is an excuse, you can't help but look at the specific players that are out injured and think about how much they would bring to the team if they were on the ice. You look at, David Clark, he's going to get you goals. You look at Chris Higgins, he was starting to find a bit of form, and he was, obviously he's a very gifted player. And then you look at players, like Stevie Lee is a solid British defenceman, and Cody Wilde has been the sole reason why our power play was so good for quite some time. And the transition play always seemed to stem from either Lee or Cody Wilde. It was whoever was on the ice at the time out of those two. The whole transition play came through them. So whilst injuries isn't an issue because we've not really been playing short benched in many games, there's only really been a couple where we've been an import short in this patch. But I think we are missing the players that are injured more than perhaps people perhaps realise. But with that being said, that's exactly the type of time when players, your senior players and your proven players from times before or on their CV or whatever, that's exactly the type of time when they need to say, stand up for this team and put their hand up and say, it's all right, guys. I'm going to get this team on my back, and you're all going to follow me. We seem to lack a real committed leadership at the moment, and no clear direction in which way the team wants to go forward. Tactically, I don't think it's been particularly entertaining hockey, and ultimately it hasn't worked either. But I don't think that the tactics itself are brilliant, but I don't think they're the sole reason why we're losing. I think a lot of it is down to the guys on the ice at the time making too many costly errors, and really not looking like they're putting a shift in, which is the biggest bugbear for all the fans.
Mm. I mean, we've asked for your questions today via Twitter, and to say we got an overwhelming response is a bit of an understatement. So we're going to take turns to look at a few of them. A lot of them were actually saying, this goes back from the start of the season, and the first one that we got was from Rob Scott, and he says, "It went wrong in the summer for me. This run of results has been coming. Better recruitment needed next time." Aaron, do you think that's a fair assessment?
Thanks for coming to me. Look, I've said many a time that I thought we had a team. We didn't have outstanding individuals, but we had a group of players that worked well with each other and was willing to work for one another. Obviously, it seems at the moment that was incorrect because of the run that we're on at the moment. So I think recruitment can come into it. When you look at point scorers and people in the top 20, to only have Chris Lawrence in there is obviously not fantastic. And if you go over previous years, then, we've had the likes of Jordan Fox, Matt Francis, David Ling, go back even further, Beauregard, Galbraith. You look in the top 20 and you always expect to see a Panther, near the top or at least more than one. So I think, the recruitment is obviously something which a lot of people wasn't happy with. So it's a tough one for me, that is, because I never saw this run of results or this kind of collapse coming. I never expected us to win every game for the remainder of the season, but it's just how we've collapsed, which is very worrying. So what is that? Why is that happening? So I didn't foresee it in the summer, so I suppose I disagree with that slightly.
Andy, do you think that the recruitment was wrong, or do you think it's just some people are looking for an excuse?
I think in hindsight, definitely. I think in hindsight, there's a fair shout that it's definitely been wrong, because of ultimately it will be judged on how far away we were from winning the league title, and looking at the way we're playing at the moment and the run of games that we've got. Obviously, we've got 3 games this weekend. The first game being against the league leaders at the moment. If we keep losing games and keep playing the way we're doing and not picking up points, we're going to be quite a way off the pace come the last game of the season when that's finished. So ultimately, the recruitment will be judged, and the team itself will be judged on the position that we come in the league and how far away we were from winning it. And so, like I say, in hindsight, yes, I'd agree that the recruitment hasn't been good enough. But having said that, 3-4 weeks ago, I had no problem with it. It's it's as much as they haven't been, the most entertaining team to watch. They've not been the most skillful or the most physical, or and there's been plenty of times where you've come out of the game thinking, that wasn't great to watch. I don't really know how we won, but hey, we did, so all's good. But unfortunately, when you don't pick up the results, that's when things do go wrong. And the run we're on at the moment is abysmal. To go from second in the league and challenging for the league and being in the position where it's in our own hands, to then go and lose 5 league games on the bounce. Not just to close rivals who it then emphasises the losses even more because they're pulling away from us. But with all due respect, but losing to Coventry and things like that, it's you can look at who was on the ice that day and how many players, how many skaters we had, but at the end of the season, all it will say is the scoreline. And that's what's the important thing is at the moment. And the team knew, and the fans knew, and everybody's known that this is the business end of the season. This is where you earn your crust, and unfortunately, I think we've been found out.
I mean, I'll read one out now, guys. Panthers banter. He's put, I'd question whether the forwards have really performed all season, but now the defence isn't performing, and that's worrying. So, look, we've said on many a time that the defence has been, solid. It was a reason why, we were second in the league 4 weeks ago. Is the fact that our forwards haven't really performed coming now and biting us on the arse, basically? Because can we expect the defence to win us games the whole season?
Well, I mean, I said right from the very, very start that defence wins championships, and I strongly still believe that. However, I think it has been a problem all season that we've just not been finding the back of the net enough. And I think you only have to look at the number of single goal defeats that we've suffered this season. And far too many, where if you had that sniper available, then yes, we could have probably turned some of those defeats into either overtimes where we pick up a point or certainly regulation wins. I suppose you have to look at losing David Clark through injury, which is a big loss for any team, a quality Brit like that who does find the back of the net. And of course, who'd have known that Bruce Graham would not be anywhere near the form that he was the last time he was here. But I think it has probably been a problem, and I think we were saying that of one of the things we were saying quite early on and quite consistently throughout the season on our podcast is, we're not scoring enough goals, we need a sniper, and that was addressed when we signed Guillaume Doucet. However, was that a case of probably too little too late at the time? I don't know.
Well, just to add to that, as much as we had said that we needed most people had said that we needed a sniper added. Obviously, we did add the sniper, and when Doucet came in, he was scoring goals. We went on a decent run, and we ended up second in the league. So I do kind of agree with the sentiment though of that. But the defence, as much as there are players on that defence, that come in for a lot of stick and don't seem to perform as well as people perhaps would like them to, the defence was the best in the league. You can't skirt away from that fact. The defence was good, but you need players to score. Like Jono says, you need to score goals. You can't rely on conceding 1 or 2 goals every game. There's going to be some games where teams score more. There's going to be some games where teams score 7. Well, there shouldn't be, but there is. And the biggest problem is getting that consistent balance. And I agree with Johnny's points. Losing some of the players that we've lost, and in the summer when you're signing players, you can't guarantee how they're going to perform. Like Jono said, when we signed Bruce Graham this year, I think most people, to a man, would have said that's a great signing. Proven goal scorer in the league, was really, really good when he came, but he's not been able to find any consistent chemistry with anybody, which I don't personally think he's become a bad player since he's left. I just think he's not getting the breaks, he's not getting the chances that he got last time, and ultimately because of his style of play, that's why it looks like he's so bad. If people can get him a puck when he's in the right area, then he's going to score goals.
So, boys, I've got a quick question for you, because I actually think people might be asking this question now. And a simple yes or no answer for me, please. Do you think Bruce Graham needs that David Ling type player on his line playing with him? Andy, I'll come to you.
Yes. Is the simple answer?
Yes for me. However, I will point out that only one season during his career he had David Ling with him, which was with us, and he scored goals throughout his career. So maybe he's had a David Ling type player with him, but yes, he probably does. He needs someone to set him up, but David Ling was a one-off, and well, yeah, yes is my answer.
I think just going on to that question, I think a lot of it was riding on perhaps trying to create chemistry with Chris Higgins. And I think the fact that Higgins has missed quite a lot of games hasn't helped that regard, perhaps.
It's just interesting, because I kind of agree in that aspect, because when we signed Higgins and, obviously got Bruce back, I think a lot of people automatically had that line out there of Higgins, Graham and Benedict. And, I don't know the stats, but I doubt we've actually seen that line on probably more than 5 to 10 games, really. It's just very interesting, because I think a lot of people say that David Ling made Bruce Graham look good. And are we seeing the natural Bruce Graham this season? Or is it just a fact of injuries and a lack of chemistry that he hasn't hit the heights that he did in 2012 to 2013?
I think judging by the fact that he scored goals all throughout his career, I think he's probably just had an off season, and whether that be due to injuries or lack of chemistry with his line mates, I don't know. But he has definitely struggled this season. There's no doubt about it, and I think it's probably just, sadly for us, an off season, and he's probably just not had the chemistry with his line mates that he has in previous years.
Okay, moving on to the next question that we had in from Mark Sturman. He said that he thinks that Panthers started to believe that we were perhaps better than we were and moved away from the basics that we were using that enabled us to grind out results.
I'll say one thing, really. The Panthers always say don't get too high with the highs, don't get too lows with the lows. So you would think by that the team would not be allowed to think that they are better than what they were or are. So I don't know. I can't see the players starting to believe that they are the best players in this league and they were going to go on and win the league, because we were never ever really, apart from you could maybe say 3 games, the 7-2 home game against Sheffield and then the 2 Christmas games against them possibly, where we've kind of, dominated games and blown teams away. We've always like Jono said earlier on, we've ground out, 1-goal games, or we've just managed to nick the game. So I can't see the team being that kind of cocky or, arrogant to say that we are better than everybody and this is it. So I wouldn't like to believe that we thought we are better than what we were.
It's another tough question. I don't think that we believe we were better than we were. I think personally the problem has been, and other questions we've had today have sort of stated this, that we just don't simply seem to have a plan B, and we seem to play the same systems. And lately, I mean, it's probably been happening all season, but it's really been noticeable in the past month, is that we tend to play it around our defensive zone so much, and the number of turnovers that we create or that happen within our own defensive zone are quite frankly frightening. And it's no wonder we've been conceding some of the goals we have when we just constantly seem to turn it over in that area. And it's always sort of that passing between the two defensemen, and then all you've got to do is put a couple of forecheckers on them, and it completely balls up the system, frankly. And we don't seem to know what to do, but we still seem to play in the same way. And this is very unusual for a Corey Nielsen team over the past couple of seasons, is that, there'd be somewhere where we would change the game plan or something different would happen. And it just hasn't. And we just seem to be sticking to the same plan. And it happened last night with Sheffield's, I think, 5th and 6th goals, where it was just messing about in our own end, caused a turnover, and they scored. And yeah, it's been so annoying. And I think, just if plan A isn't working, don't keep reverting to plan A. Find a plan B.
But then is our problem that we don't seem to have a plan B? How can you revert to a plan B if you don't have one?
Well, I mean, I suppose that's the $1 million question, Aaron, and quite frankly, for a professional hockey team, and a coach as experienced as Corey has become, and a coach as experienced as Rick Strachan, we really should do. And if we haven't got a plan B, then I'm afraid it's unforgivable.
Right. Well, I'm going to ask a quick question here to you both, and I'll come to Andy first. A lot of people talk about Corey. This isn't Corey's style of hockey. It's not what Corey's used to. It's not the coaching that we've seen from Corey. But Rick Strachan has been credited with bringing in this 1-4, trap hockey system. And I'll throw to Andy first. Do you think it's more the sense of Rick Strachan has come up with this system, and we're playing a Rick Strachan system, but Corey as head coach is getting, the negativity or whatever, when maybe it's not actually Corey's system?
I don't really know. I mean, ultimately, they are a partnership. As much as Corey is the head coach and Rick Strachan is always seems to be the assistant coach or the vice coach or whatever, they are a partnership. They will listen to each other. They will talk to each other over every single issue that the team has. So, as much as it certainly isn't your typical, 5 years ago run and gun, entertaining, attacking hockey like we've seen with Corey's teams. I don't for once think that this is Rick Strachan's systems being reverted. I think that it's a two-way street. They both have an input. They'll listen to each other and they'll try and work out what's best for the team. Just going back to the plan A and plan B type thing, I think our problem is I think we do have a plan B, but unfortunately I don't think that we've ever seen us change from plan A to plan B within a game this season. As much as we have constantly been passing back between defence, trying to get that breakout play, it's only really been this last couple of weeks where we've come across trap hockey from the other team and we're trying to draw them out. I mean, the Cardiff game was a clear example in that first period where they put 5 men in the neutral zone, so we just kept passing it back between the defensemen, trying to draw them out to put some forecheckers on us. The problem is, when teams do put forecheckers on us, like last night, obviously I wasn't there, I was listening on the radio, but like Jono said, the last couple of goals came because they put forecheckers on us. And the problem that I've found this season is when teams do forecheckers, when we've got the puck in our own zone, that's when they score goals, because the error count is far too high.
Okay, we'll move on to some more questions a little later on, but first I want to probably analyse not really the game last night, but some of the things that have come out of it, and probably our own personal feelings as fans from it. I mean, I'll speak for myself, and that last night hurt, and it hurt badly. I've felt absolutely let down, to be honest, by the team. I think with a 3-1 lead, we were playing against a backup netminder from the EPL, and however well he played, and fair play to Sam Gospel, I thought he was excellent last night. We should have won that game and won it handsomely, and we didn't. And I've got to pay credit to the Sheffield Steelers as well, who just clearly wanted that game more than what we did. Aaron, you was there. I believe you was watching in a box, so I don't know how you managed to angle that one. But what was a similar take, or because I know that you were particularly angry last night after the final hooter?
That's a very good way of putting it, Jono. Yes, I was angry. I was hugely disappointed in our effort level. We have no God-given right to win games and to win trophies. I don't mind. Well, I don't like losing, but it happens. It's sport. But I don't mind losing if we actually turn up and put in the effort. As I said earlier, that first period of hockey that yesterday was the worst period of hockey that I have ever seen, live and probably on TV. Now, granted, I've not been going as long as you have, Jono, and as long as Andy has, but I've been going 8 years, and that's the worst period. We had a 2-goal lead. We had the second leg at our home ice. Like you said, fair, full credit to Sam Gospel. He put in a performance, but it took us 8 minutes to have our first shot on a netminder that is coming from a backup in the EPL, met his new teammates in Nottingham, 2 hours before face-off. I'm sorry, but that is unacceptable. We should have been putting so much pressure on Sam Gospel in those first 5 minutes, but instead we were 3-0 down.
No, I
not good.
I completely agree with everything that you're saying. One thing I do want to say about Sam Gospel, though, and some of the things I've seen today from Panthers fans, some Panthers fans, a minority, which has been quite embarrassing, saying, "Oh, he should never be allowed near a Panthers shirt again." Here is a lad, 20 years old. He's a backup in the EPL, a very good team in Telford Tigers, it has to be said. But he gets the opportunity to start for a top elite league team in a cup semi-final. What's he supposed to say? So sorry, no, this is my hometown club I support. I'm not going to do that. Of course he isn't. It's a huge opportunity for him, and of course he's going to take it. And I think people who are making comments like that need to have a good long look at themselves in the mirror and ask themselves what they would do in the same situation, because I'm telling you it will be exactly the same as what Sam Gospel's done. He had an opportunity, he took it, and he absolutely made the most of it, and absolutely fair play and all credit to him as far as I'm concerned. Rant over.
Well, I'll just jump in there very quickly, Jono, actually, because the reason that people are talking like that is because we lost and Sam Gospel played a major part in them winning the game. If we had performed to the level that we should have, then it shouldn't have even been an issue. So it's a bit of sour grapes, isn't it, really, at the end of the day?
Totally agree. So, the Sheffield Steelers, I suppose they deserve an awful lot of credit. Coming into the NIC, the home of your biggest rivals, you're 2 goals down from the first leg, you've got a 20-year-old backup netminder from the EPL. The odds are massively stacked against you. And I think, for me, they just wanted it more. And they showed how much they wanted it more. And they... It pains me to say it, but they absolutely deserve to win that game. And win it in the way they did.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I was at home listening to it over radio. And like I say, especially the first 6 minutes, obviously, it was one-way traffic. It was like, I expected them to start hard because of the 2-goal deficit. I expected them to come out strong and, to give it a good go and make a game of it. I didn't expect them to score 3 goals in 6 minutes. And that's ultimately, as much as we then managed to get back into it and then we managed to get back ahead in it and everything else that happened, that ultimately is what killed the game. Because we should have been starting that game exactly the same. Whilst I expected Sheffield to come out hard and perhaps, start with the advantage early on, I certainly expected Panthers to turn up at the start and get shots off straight away. And like Aaron said earlier on, when it takes 8 minutes to get a shot off on goal on a backup EPL netminder, it's a poor show. And we've got to, whilst you've got to give Sheffield an incredible amount of credit, you've also got to look at ourselves and say, what we did. Like I say, wasn't there listening to the radio, but one thing that certainly stood out was how good Mosienko, Thretter, and especially Mathieu Roy sounded over the airwaves. They pretty much were the names that you constantly kept hearing, other than Kowalski, which is ultimately the reason why we ended up losing that game.
I suppose that was another thing as well, is that Craig Kowalski, who has been outstanding since he came back from injury, but he probably had a night to forget last night, Aaron.
He will want a couple of the goals back. I have no, qualms or doubt about that. But let's be honest, the D that was in front of him, 75% of that D was poor last night and did K-Wall no favours. Credit where credit is due, like you guys have done. The Steelers came into our building and just embarrassed us. At the end of the day, I can't really think of any other word than that. And I'm kind of starting to get a little bit annoyed and a little bit just, I don't like hearing, oh look, they're celebrating like they've won the cup already, and other teams come here and play desperate playoff hockey because, blocking shots, etc. Well, we're now coming to the final stretch, where you need to play playoff hockey. Let's see some of that from ourselves. We didn't look like we wanted to win that game last night at all. Yes, you have to give a little bit of credit to say that we came back into it, levelling it up, going ahead. But then again, we shoot ourselves in the foot. And I just think you have to give credit to them, and if you manage to see the video, that Mr. Sims, has put out there of them celebrating, I ain't got a problem with that at all, because they've, like I say, they came into our arena, their biggest rivals, 2 goals down, and they've just knocked us out of a cup that we've won for the last 5 years. What the final is at Motor Point Arena. We had great motivation to make sure that Sheffield were not playing at home in the final of the Challenge Cup, but I didn't see any motivation there. So full credit to the Steelers, and they deserved it. So there's not much more you can really say.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose this is another thing, and it's another point I want to make, and I suppose it's playing devil's advocate a little bit. And Andy, I'll come to you first with this one, but we have won this trophy 5 years on the bounce. That is an absolutely phenomenal record, and something that we can be rightly very, very proud of, because no other team has done that, and I would say it'll be a very long time before another team does it again, if at all. Are we perhaps being a little churlish as a fan base by bemoaning the fact that we haven't got to the final, when we've won it 5 years on the trot, and that run had to come to an end sometime?
I think if you look at it from the outset, yes, it probably is a little bit churlish. The fact, at the end of the day, it's not a particularly easy trophy to win. It's not the hardest trophy to win, but it's certainly not the easiest. And what we've done has been nothing short of incredible in this competition. But I think the biggest problem is not the fact that we are out of it now; it's the way in which we're out of it. And I think that's the real sort of big problem that people have got. I don't think it's the strange attitude of this is our trophy. We should be winning this because it's what we do. Because purely basing that on the fact that we've done it before. I think a lot of it is down to the fact that we were already 2 goals up, and we completely threw it away.
Look, our record, especially in the Challenge Cup, is phenomenal, and no other team will win that Challenge Cup 5 years on the trot. It had to end sometime. For me, it's how it ended. If it ends with you putting everything in and just the fact that the better team on the night won, etc. But when you kind of give it up with a whimper, it kind of doesn't feel right. But look, nobody should be questioning the Panthers' kind of recent trophy history, because it's just unbelievable. But you're always trying to make history again, though, aren't you? You're always looking for the next trophy. We can't live off our past glory. But like I say, nobody can put into question what 5 Challenge Cup trophies on the bounce actually is, because no other team will ever do that, I don't think.
Moving on from that, and probably trying to look ahead a bit, or look to the future if possible. And I've seen, obviously, the coaching staff come under an awful lot of criticism today, where some are calling for Corey's head, some are calling for a complete change, others calling for poor lady to be brought in as coach. There's no doubt about it, Corey Nielsen is he's the most successful Panthers coach of all time. His record speaks for itself. The number of trophies we've won under his tutelage as coach has been absolutely phenomenal. However, I will ask you these questions, and Andy, I'll come to you first because I know you're a big fan of Corey. But do you think his time at the Nottingham Panthers is coming to an end?
If we don't win the playoffs, I think it probably will be. Whether it will be his choice, perhaps. Whether he thinks, look, I've given it a good run. It's time to look elsewhere. Who's to say that with his past CV record that he doesn't get an offer somewhere else? That's more lucrative for himself. I don't know. But look, at the end of the day, it's a results-based business. He knows that. The Panthers know that. The fans know that. Everybody knows that. And ultimately, the one result that everybody wants in this league is the league title. As much as trophies always go down well, it's the league title that people want. And obviously, like I say, if we whimper away from this league chase now, don't get me wrong, we're not in the league chase, but if we whimper out of it now and we end up 20 points off the top come the end of the season, that's going to be a really poor season with the calibre of players that we've got and the standard of the facilities and everything else. It is going to be a real bad turnaround in what people expect. I think it's under threat. His position. the problem for me is obviously, like you said, I'm a Nielsen fan. The biggest problem is you kind of don't want it to ruin the past history and all the good times. But unfortunately, I think if we do end up going completely trophyless this season, and he goes, I think as much as we will still have the history books on our side, I think a lot of people will soon forget just how much he did for this club.
I think for me, I compare it very much to another sporting hero of mine, Brian Clough, who finished his term at Forest under a bit of a cloud with the way that we finished by getting relegated from the Premier League after several years in the top division with loads of success with league titles, European Cups, League Cups, what have you. And it sort of reminds me of that a little bit, where everything turned sour at the end, and I don't think Corey deserves that, a sort of sour ending. Maybe it will happen, but I think he deserves a little better than that for the dedication and commitment he's put to this club. I mean, he's been here 9 seasons as a player and a coach. You don't get that sort of loyalty much anymore, and I can understand why fans have turned against him or turning against the coaching, because that's the nature of supporting a team, and fans are always going to be fickle. Any fans, any sport, we're all pretty much the same. I just think he deserves a little better and he deserves to go out on a high. Unfortunately, the way we're playing at the moment, I can't see that happening.
Well, you said it earlier. Corey Nielsen is our most successful coach in history. If you count the 3 major trophies, so the league, the Challenge Cup, and the playoffs, since he's been player coach from 2008 to 2009, we have won 50% of those trophies. 5 Challenge Cups, 3 playoffs, and obviously the league. Now, what kind of baffles me, and everybody has an opinion and stuff like that, and I know, this league is very different to many others because it's all about the league in this, in the Elite League. Playoffs and Challenge Cups come second and third. So the fact that, we've only won 1 league title under Nielsen, I know a lot of people, say that's not good enough, but 9 trophies out of a possible 18 when you count those 3, that's just, if you had a 50% win record in those, it's you're talking just unbelievable stats, really. So I do think some people just forget about the past and are very much stuck in this rut that has possibly been for 2 seasons now, and for whatever achievement Corey Nielsen and Rick Strachan has brought to us, they aren't untouchable. You can't just live off the past, like I said earlier, but you can also show them the respect that they deserve. Now, for me, I honestly don't know. I don't know whether Corey will be here next season, or it wouldn't surprise me if he wasn't. Would I be surprised if he did? Then possibly more than if he wasn't here. But I think it's now come to that stage for us that it's got to go one way or the other. It either does have to go with fresh ideas, or it kind of has to be a revamped Corey Nielsen and Rick Strachan. They need to refresh themselves and come back next season, if they are, with fresh ideas and fresh energy, because players on the ice look lethargic, and obviously I said earlier on that are emotionally drained and mentally tired. I also think the coaches are as well. You listen to some of the interviews, and take Corey Nielsen's interview last night after the game. The guy sounds at the bottom of the pit. he sounds absolutely heartbroken. That's not nice to hear. You do not want to hear the coach of your team sound that disappointed and that low. So has he got the energy to come back and try and put us back where we need to be? But if this is to be Corey Nielsen's last season in charge, then quite frankly, the guy deserves a hell of a lot of respect.
Yeah, completely and utterly agree with you. Okay, let's move on and look ahead. We've got coming up, I think, 9 more league games and hopefully 4 more games in the playoffs. A tough weekend coming up in Scotland, 3 games in 3 nights. What needs to happen between now and then in order to try and end this season on a bit of a high?
Well, I think we've said it earlier on in the season. We just need to go on a run. It doesn't have to be a particularly long run now, because let's face it, the league is pretty much gone. Well, it has gone. So we just need to get some momentum back. We need to get some wins. We need to start playing with a bit more belief. So that we've got that chance to end on a high. Because I think if we keep playing the way that we are, I don't think we even stand a chance. Probably of even making the Final Four again, let alone trying to challenge and win it. So I just think we need to get a bit of a belief back amongst the players, because the fans won't get the belief back until we see it from them.
I think we need to find some confidence. I think it's what Robert Farmer said in his interview after the highlights, which I have to just say, Robert Farmer, full credit to you for your honesty, for talking and being, truthful with how he was feeling and how the team is feeling. I think the team need to show unity. It's kind of we're at the bottom of the barrel at the moment, and there is only really one way to get out of that, and that is by everybody working together and being a team and playing for pride, like Farms has said, and realising that, yes, the Challenge Cup is gone. Yes, realistically, the league has gone, but there's still 2 trophies to win. There's the conference and there's the playoffs. The season isn't dead and buried, but we need to get some confidence back. We need to go back to basics. We need to go back to how we were playing. And we need to kind of just show a bit of gumption, show a bit of pride, show a bit of, I won't say the words, but let's grow a pair and realise that yes, it's crap. It ain't been good. It's not been good enough. But the only way to turn that around is by getting back out on the ice and winning the next game. And that's against Braehead on Friday. It's tough. It's not going to be easy. But if we don't show the willing to try and make something out of the rest of this season, then we might as well all just, get our money back from the games, and they might as well all just go home now. There's still 2 trophies left to play for.
But realistically, can you honestly see us going into Braehead and winning at the moment? Because as much as it pains me to say it, I can't. I just can't. Just the way we're playing, I cannot see us going there. A team that's clear at the top of the league, going into their barn and winning a game. They won 2 games at the weekend. Okay, it was against Dundee, but they didn't concede a goal in either. I mean, that it's a tough ask. I mean, stranger things have happened, but I hate feeling like this, but I just really cannot see us winning on Friday night.
I think the only saving grace for Friday could possibly be the fact that A, we've just got humped and knocked out of the cup at home in a game that we should have won, and be the fact that it is live on telly for everybody to see. If that doesn't give the players, a kick up the backside, then I resign to the fact that everything's over for the season. I don't doubt that Brayhead are certainly the favourites for Friday's game, and I won't be disappointed if Brayhead win the game, so long as we look like we were even, we turned up. And I think that's ultimately going to be the big thing. If we perform like we know we can, even if we lose by a goal or two, nobody will complain. The problem is the way it's coming about and how easily it's coming about now of the losses. And like I say, I agree with you, Jono. I can't see us winning realistically. Obviously, it's an away game against a team fighting for the league title, who are playing exceptionally good hockey. But hopefully, like I say, with it being on the telly and with us, trying to prove a point because of what happened last night, there's part of me that would like to believe that it might happen.
Okay, guys. Well, I think that's everyone depressed enough, and probably really. It's been a tough one to do, this one. I think you'll both agree.
Yeah, it's not been easy.
No. So I just want to say to you two, thanks very much for coming on and everything that you've had to say.
Pleasure.
No worries at all.
And obviously we will be back next week. I won't be, as I'm on holiday, so I will leave it in your two guys' capable hands next week. Thank you to everyone who sent a question in. We got absolutely loads through, so I'm sorry if we didn't read yours out, but it was an absolutely overwhelming response that we had to that question that we posed earlier today. Thank you very, very much for listening, and we will hopefully speak to you again next week. Until then, goodbye.